Hello and welcome to this video called Why Traditional Note Reading with the Black Notes Can Take Years. For those of you who are curious about how the black notes are learned or shown in traditional music versus the way we learn them in piano with ease. Or if you've ever wanted to know about transposing scales or keys or playing along with someone who sings or who plays another instrument. I also made this video for those of you who had some piano lessons in the past, since you may have some traditional sheet music that isn't from Piano with Ease that you may want to try playing eventually. So I wanted to give you a refresher on what you'll be dealing with there. If you only ever plan to play using Piano with Ease music, then you won't need this video because on our music, the black notes have all been made easy for you. They will each always be highlighted, so you'll never have to wonder when to play a black note. However, in traditional lessons, one of the main reasons people need to pay a piano teacher to sit beside them is to be guided and corrected through the complicated world of music theory and learning everything about the black notes, which includes playing in the different keys or scales, because this is not a simple subject and it's not something that can easily be self-corrected at the piano. Most new piano students start learning songs mainly on the white notes because it is the easiest, and that's also why we started there in Piano with Ease. But if students want to learn to play songs in any scale or key, they will eventually need to learn to get as comfortable playing the black notes as they are playing the white notes. However, being able to play is only a part of the battle, because the main thing that makes it such a complex subject is learning to read the traditional sheet music on the page for all of the many different scales because of the traditional sheet music rules that have to be memorized and internalized about the black notes. It can truly feel like you're reading and translating another complicated language. Students don't usually end up reading and playing songs that use mainly the black notes until they have reached an advanced level after years of training. If you were comparing this to education levels, you can think of it as advanced level college training to be able to not read anything that is put in front of you and to be able to immediately play it. So before we get into how the black notes are learned or shown in traditional music, then we'll first cover what is a scale or key. Many adults who had piano lessons when they were younger were forced to play scales, which they found boring because they didn't understand what the scales were for. It can take quite a while for it all to come together and make sense. A scale is basically a set range of notes ordered by pitch. And the most common are the 8-note major sounding scales that sound happy and similar to this. But there are also minor scales that sound sad too, similar to this. And there are also many other scales such as blues scales, pentatonic scales, but for this video we will only focus on major scales for our examples. Playing all the white notes from C to C is called the C major scale, and it sounds like this going up and like this going down. So this key of C major is the only major scale that you can play only on the white notes. Every other major scale includes one or more black notes. For example, you can't just start on a G and play all the white notes up to this G and call it a major scale. See, this one sounds wrong, so you would have to memorize that the G major scale includes always the Fs going sharp in order to sound correct. And you couldn't just start, for example, at the F and go up to F and call that an F major scale. See how that note sounds wrong? You'd have to always memorize that the B's in the F major scale go flat. So every other major scale besides C has its own different combination of black and white notes. You might be wondering what the different scales and keys are even used for. One reason is so that a song is able to be played in different ranges. If you took the same exact song and played it starting on different scales or keys around the piano, then it would sound lower or higher. So let's use the song Mary Had a Little Lamb as our example. If I started on C position in the C scale, or what's also known as in the key of C, then Mary Had a Little Lamb would sound like this. And I could play it on all white notes without worrying about any black notes. But if I was to start that same exact song in a D position, I would have had to memorize that the D scale makes all the C's and the F's automatically sharp, or my song wouldn't sound correct. So now I'd have to play Mary keeping those sharps in mind. And if I was to start on E, then I would have had to remember that all the F's, G's, and the C's and D's are all sharp in the key of E. See, if I was to just play it on the white notes and just start on E, see how wrong it sounds? Sounds like some notes are sour or off, and so on. No matter which note I start my song on, I'd have to know which flats and sharps to make automatic in order to play in that particular scale or key for my song to sound correct. When you take a song and you play it in a different key or scale than the original version, then that is called transposing. And where that comes in really handy is when you're playing along with a singer, because each different singer's voice has a different note range. Some voices can much more comfortably reach up to the higher notes, and some can much more comfortably reach down in the lower notes. You saw an example of this already in stage 2 on the song Happy Birthday to You. In stage 2, we hadn't yet introduced the black notes, so in order to play this song only on the white notes, I had to write it in the C major scale. And that had us starting our first note on a G, either this low G or this middle G. And I made the two different versions to hopefully accommodate more voices if some wanted to start lower or if some wanted to start higher. But that makes it so either version are going to be much harder for different types of people to sing. For example, in this lower version, I can very comfortably start on this low G because I'm an alto. Happy birthday to you. But in the higher version, I am not really comfortable with like all of these notes, and especially not this high G. I feel like I have to squeak my voice to get it to go up to that note. So since this is a famous song that many people would want to be able to play while others sang, then in stage 3, once we had learned what sharps and flats were, then I made a different version of Happy Birthday to You. And this one is technically in the key of F, where all the B's are played flat automatically. So you can see in this song, all of the B's were already pre-marked, pre-highlighted for you in the right hand and in the left hand. So you'll always be able to know exactly when to play your B flats. And by putting the song in the key of F, then the voice gets to start on middle C, and the highest it ever goes is here. So by being able to sing in this range, it's a much more common range. So like the sopranos and the altos can both comfortably sing there, so many more people can sing along with this song comfortably. So instead of starting down here like we did in stage 2, happy, or instead of starting clear up here, happy, then we can start here, happy birthday, and it's much easier to sing. Different scales and keys also come in handy when learning different instruments, depending on the instrument. We already mentioned when you start learning piano, we mainly just start and stay on the white notes for a while because it's easier to play and that makes our songs sound good immediately. But on other instruments, then the key of C is not always the easiest key to start learning on. For example, on a violin, the easiest scale to start learning a song on is on the key of A major, which on the piano has 3 automatic sharps, or the key of D major, which has 2 automatic sharps. Because on the violin, those are the open strings with the easiest finger placement, so they start there. So if you wanted to play a song along with a beginning violinist and you were a beginning piano player, then one of you is going to have to learn to play in a different key. Either you would have to play your song in the key of A or D using black notes, or they would have to learn how to play a song in the key of C, which causes them to have to learn different finger placements than they're comfortable with yet. So it can take a while to be able to do that if you're beginners. But side note, there is a feature for transposing easily on some electronic keyboards and digital pianos, and I'm going to show you that at the end of this video because that can really make a huge shortcut if you are really interested in playing with other instruments or singers. Now let's talk about how the different scales are shown on traditional sheet music and why that makes learning very difficult for many traditional students. This is a music theory chart. It's called the Circle of Fifths, and it shows all the different scales. At the beginning of each line in traditional music, you will always see blank lines like this with no sharps or flats listed, or you will see one or more sharps here at the beginning, or one or more flats, all the way up to down here where we have 6 sharps or 6 flats that can be shown. So the blank lines tell you that there are no sharps and flats that you must remember to make automatic while you're playing that song. If you see one sharp, since it is on this top line, and this top line when it has a note on it on music is an F, then that means to remember that all Fs are sharp throughout the entirety of that song. If you see 2 sharps, that means Fs and this note that's in the space that this sharp's on, C, that means all your F's and C's throughout the entire song are going to be sharp. All the F's and C's on the entire piano, not just these two that are shown right here. If you see one flat, since the flat is here on this middle line of the 5 lines and that note is a B, that's telling you all B's are flat throughout the entire song. And if we had 3 and the flat's on the B line, and this space right here, which is A, and this space, which is E, you have to make sure all B's, A's, and E's are played flat throughout the entire song. And so on, up to the most advanced music where students have to remember to play all of these sharps or all of these flats throughout the whole song while they are reading the sheet music. So traditional students usually start out playing songs with the blank lines, obviously, so they don't have to worry about playing any black notes at first. As you've seen in stage 3, the black notes definitely do add more to think about while you're playing than when you were playing the stage 2 songs. Once traditional students can play songs with no black notes, then they might start playing songs with only one sharp for several months until it gets easier to remember, or else with one flat. Then they might eventually move to 2 sharps or flats, etc. So it can take years to get a song with all of these sharps or flats easier.